Good evening. How are you? Well, it's beautiful out. It's 82 degrees, and it's clear to me that the thing that makes the biggest difference, and you probably had the same experience, is combine a high temperature with a high humidity. And the humidity today, according to Thomas Jefferson, is 31%. So you get some idea of how it's more sufferable. Winds at 2.2 miles an hour. Again, I don't feel it, in part because I'm in this chamber, if you will. I'll show you. See? Surrounded by nature. It almost makes it impossible to believe there could be creatures on this planet that would want to embrace lying, suffering, power for no good purpose for the general welfare, but self-aggrandizing, seizures in every direction are the theme of the day. So there are a couple of things going on in that category, I guess. One is firing the Bureau of Labor Statistics personnel because he didn't like what she had to say. And I've dealt with them over the years. In fact, I was special counsel to a project, the American Worker, and we spent a lot of time on those statistics. And I think that's one thing. The other thing, which is part of, if you will, the lying menace that is the Trump regime on its way to becoming a dictatorship, is our deals with prisons, in particular El Salvador. So let's, how do they do it? There are devices, well-worn devices that fascists use to break down a fact by telling lies about the fact. In other words, what you think is a fact, we have an alternative for, and you should believe in our fact. And if they only muddy the water because people don't have the time to check it out, they may be permitted to continue to do wrongdoing. Now, a long time ago, but I still read it, Socrates was accused by Plato of having discussions with Glaucon, and he insisted on a dividing line, which is kind of a dividing line between perception, between looking up in the sky and looking down, between what is ephemeral and what is concrete, what is truly fact, reality fact, and what is a vision, a prejudice, an imagination. Now, the difference between shadows and reality are most easily found even in Socrates' view in the math. But it's a complex argument he makes, and I guess I could walk long enough to get through it, but I'm not sure I trust my memory. But the best example of it is you should dust off your Orwell, especially 1984. And think again of those expressions and his terrible society that could happen, that is happening to us right now. So there were slogans like, war is peace. Wrap your mind around that. Freedom is slavery. You want somebody telling you what to do. You don't want to actually do it yourself. But this is the one that drives me the craziest, because I think I had the opportunities I had because of education. And it is that ignorance is strength, which is directly in opposition to Thomas Jefferson. And I've repeated it again and again, but if you expect a nation to be ignorant and free, you expect what never was and never will be. Well, in 1984, there's I don't know if hero is right for that book, but an independent-minded individual who takes us through what 1984 is about. And ultimately, there's a scene in which he's being compelled to say 2 + 2 = 5. And you may say, what does that mean, and so forth. But this is a question that goes back years before Orwell wrote, and I don't know if it was inspired or not, but 2 + 2 may not equal 4 if Big Brother doesn't think it does. So, and there's an expression in the book, I think it's in that section, in which Winston Smith is told to subordinate the real world perceptions he has to the political will of the party. That's what Trump is doing. That's what Trump is doing. The party, Trump, these no-neck fascists, they're telling us you have to accept it. Go accept it. You know, I just want my people in place so they could distort what is true, what is fact, and 2 + 2 can equal 5 in my administration. And the numbers of the working men and women, I can make them whatever I want because that's who I am. I make these things up. So the parallel is Trump says what the job stats are that I say they are, you have to accept. And sometime later this week, we'll find out who that is. So when, and this is, it's got to gnaw at you. It does myself. The commentators do 2 things that tell me they haven't quite gotten it. Even the most sophisticated, conscious, spot on the money analyses miss this point. 1, they're always surprised. I can't believe he's doing that. And the second thing that happens, and I once saw this among a terrific criminal defense lawyer, when he would talk, he'd have a normal voice, maybe a baritone a little bit from time to time. But when he argued, and I thought it was his anxiety or his doubt he could be persuasive or whatever, he'd go higher. He'd have a high test voice. You have to understand and listen for it, because in terms of persuasion, it matters. Now, I think, I'm not going to name the people, but the ones that I've noticed do this, I almost say I think they're the brightest. They have the most facts at their command. Their analysis is very good, but then they say it this way. Why? What is that about? Are we going to choose incompetents who lie and mislead the nation as to what's the law, like Beauvais, who told people to lie and not to do what the court said, and now he wants to be on the court in an appellate position? What is that? Now, the second thing that's on my mind is prisons, and particularly the ones in El Salvador. And I suppose we're all curious and interested in it. But in the 1970s, I was a law clerk in the U.S. Court of Appeals in the Second Circuit. And this power of a mind, Ira Robbins, he and I were co-clerks for a while, and we wrote an article. And it was about prisoners. Now, Professor Robbins has gone on to write and to lecture and to hold positions, to have a great say in the reform, particularly of private prisons. But in that article, what we wrote about was, well, the black flower of civilized society. That was the term that we used, but it wasn't our term. Nathaniel Hawthorne wrote those words in the Scarlet Letter. And the Scarlet Letter was ascribed to a woman who had a child and refused to identify who the father was. And so they forced her to stand on the stockade and to be shamed. Some of the old women thought she should be killed and so forth. Now, the story is complicated. I suggest you read it if you've never read it, or read it again if you read it once, because it has more application these days to us than probably when we read it as younger persons. But the prison, then and now, is the symbol of shame and hypocrisy. And there's some fresh growing flowers outside to suggest the contradiction between the prison and our aspirations, not perfectly pursued or accomplished. And the prison is about the flaws and failings of our society. And the prison grows out of the soil. And it blossoms as it may. So, you see, I think these concepts, these symbols, if not our basic notion of humanity, says the prison in El Salvador is a black flower, a bouquet for its beliefs in torture, arbitrary punishment, arbitrary detentions, forced disappearances, sexual assault. These are crimes against humanity. Now, a nation that dropped 3 mega bombs on Iran without a declaration of war, the support of Congress, which is, in my opinion, a war crime, no matter how important we think it was to do that. And as we've learned, the results were not outrageously wonderful either. But what we have war crimes in El Salvador. We participated in it. We sent people there. We knew what it was. We tell people that. Same thing could be said about our Florida Alcatraz, with the creatures that are emphasized that could kill us. So what should happen? It should go to an international commission. It absolutely should. When the prison says, and we say, tattoos are evidence of what? They're evidence of tattoos. Is working in a kitchen a reason to pick up a person who's not a criminal, although those are the ones you say we're picking up? And what about gays? Is that a basis? So you get a sense that we are so out there in no man's land. If you squinted, you would see sands extending forever and heat. And then add to it pain, subservience, arbitrary physical striking out, and the look of the cells and so forth that we've seen in sort of vanity pictures taken by public officials with the imprisoned men behind them. Is this what America's about? No, I don't think so. I was encouraged today to hear that some think that the Republicans are old guard Republicans or non-Trump Republicans are thinking it's time and it's possible to move Trump on down the road. Between all the things that are going wrong because of his failed character, probably in the bassinet, and his limited intelligence, his limited desire to find out and do what's right, his contradiction of our laws from the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence to all the statutes over the years that we've been a nation, it's time for him to go. A boot in the ass and out the door. And we need a formula that works better than Democrats cowering, hiding. Now, they did put up some fight at the end on the recess saying, we're not going to rubber stamp these people because we're not going to approve them for the positions that you want us to approve them for until we've had chances to discuss it on the floor of the Senate. No consent calendar on this stuff. So when you see the Trump administration regime do something, keep in mind what are the motives. Track the reason for the lie. Sometimes it's just to distract us, but other times it's really meant to be effective and to get us concerned about ourselves while he does whatever he wants for himself. It's a sad time in America. I didn't think it would happen in my lifetime, although I've been through, as probably many of you have been through, well, from Watergate and Nam and Bush looking for weapons of mass destruction and Reagan having his own war down south, and both Bushes entangled, one in the Contra Fawn and Ali scandal and the other looking for uranium when it doesn't exist. So our America, as a first principle, has got to find the truth, and then it has to return to the native documents that made us a great nation, so that we can move forward aware of the dangers that happen when you have people like Trump out there trying to destroy this not so young experiment in democracy. All the best. Bye-bye.